Relations at the University of Bristol. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us on the program today. Now, Israel says its troops are still operating inside Lebanon despite this MOU. Is this deal already weakened?
I think we will need to see in the very next days what happens next. I mean, let's face it, the MOU, the Islamabad MOU, it's only a framework agreement of negotiations that will be going on at least for the next 60 days. And the reality on the ground will shape that development forward. The question of Lebanon and Israel will be central. It will be a hot spot for this agreement and will make it vulnerable on both sides, let's say. If Israel decides to continue its military operation and the US does not manage to control those operations and limit their impact at the regional level, and therefore to meet the request of Iran in that respect, then the result will be detrimental for the continuation of the MOU, in my view. We will also see to what extent Iran has an appetite to reopening the war as a result of operations in Lebanon itself. We know that they can do it, and they've done that a few weeks ago, but we will have to see whether that is their actual intention now, because as we see from the MOU in itself, there are some big carrots in that agreement for Iran, including some significant financial relief for Iran, of which is very much in need, and therefore they may have an incentive to neglect the Lebanese situation. But we will have to see, in fact. It's a matter of time only to find out.
Filippo, what can the United States do to exert influence on Israel? Just 2 days ago, we had the US President Donald Trump, who essentially said Israel overplayed its hand in Lebanon. He at one point said you can't blow up a building every time a Hezbollah commander walks in, a residential block. That's pretty clear. So the fact that Israel would possibly have a different interpretation is shocking.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't think it's only a matter of interpretation. It's also a matter of political will. Israel is very disappointed by this MOU, by this agreement. Their expectation was maximalist. They wanted this war to proceed and achieve, the final objectives that were declared at the beginning, as we were saying a few minutes ago, including possibly even regime change, the annihilation of Iran's nuclear capacity, the ballistic missile file too, and so on. And none of those objectives have been achieved. So they have reasons to be disappointed about this agreement. What the US can do in order to curb Israel's military action in Lebanon and the attempts that they may try to implement in order to hijack the MOU and the proceedings of the negotiations that follows this MOU is up to, we will have to see. I mean, ultimately, the United States, and Israel armament capacities are dependent on the United States production. So, I mean, if things get extreme, the United States may decide to limit the supply of weapons to Israel, and at that point they may decide to restrain themselves. But we will have to see. Consider that in Israel, elections are coming soon, and the political repercussions of this agreement for Netanyahu are also significant on that front.
Yeah, there's no doubt that that political domestic calculus will be weighing on the Prime Minister's mind. But as you mentioned, the fact that Israel is not a signatory to this agreement when they themselves were directly involved with striking Iran, with striking Lebanon. But as you said, those maximalist demands have not been achieved. We still have Khamenei in place, even though the father was taken out, the son is now in command. We have Hezbollah that still poses a problem for Israel, it turns out, despite that pager attack, despite the conflict that has gone on over the past few weeks. So I'm just curious, do you think that Israel will actively work to scuttle this agreement?
My sense, look, let's look at the historical precedents. I cannot think of one single case of ceasefire or agreement between Israel and Lebanon, but also more broadly in the most recent history, in the past couple of years, that Israel has not breached So the rationale behind this is that when Israel thinks that they need to act, they do so, regardless of the rules that have been established by ceasefires or agreements. And the United States so far has been tolerant, although not necessarily sympathetic to that behavior. So my expectation is that that can happen again. It's a realistic option, and one that again will make the agreement very vulnerable to Israel's interest and Israel will.
Hezbollah says this deal is a victory for the militant group. Is there truth to that? Because the MOU doesn't really talk about Iran's support for its proxies.
That is not an explicit reference to it, but we all know that Iran obviously supports Hezbollah. I think we need to sort of be a little bit more sophisticated and trying to sort of make an assessment between winning and losing this war. Things are a little bit more into a gray zone sometimes, but it is true that these agreements and generally the situation now in the region provides all that Hezbollah needs to frame the current situation as a military success. They have basically made a comeback to the war, notwithstanding the losses, the serious losses that have suffered in the past couple of years during this conflict and its ceasefires and continuation and so on and so forth. And therefore, consider that in the logic of asymmetric warfare, the very fact of surviving and anyway thwarting the objectives of their enemy, that is Israel, can be considered by them as a form of success. And therefore, they will be planting flags all over the country that will be claiming victory regardless. It's a matter of optics, of course. They of course, suffered casualties. Israel is occupying Lebanese territory. And of course, things are more complex than that, but that will be their claim, and they will have a basis for that claim to be substantiated.
Filippo, we're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately. Thank you so much for your analysis on the program today. Now, one